So, Nvidia just revealed DLSS, its new AI graphics tech that uses generative systems to enhance video games with more photorealistic effects. And I'm not going to worry about mincing my words here, I think it looks shit. Yes, we've barely seen a minute of it in action, but if what's teased is where technology giants think the future of graphics tech in games is going, then I'm afraid I'm out. The first shot of Nvidia's DLSS announcement trailer gives us a good look at the impact the technology has on Capcom's latest Resident Evil Requiem. It's already a stunning looking video game, so I can't say I ever felt it was in need of enhancements. But lo and behold, as that green bar sweeps across the screen, a yassified Grace Ashcroft is left staring back at us, devoid of any discernible character, as if the light behind her eyes has been switched off by the technology. It's the sort of smoothed over face and unrealistic lighting that we've become accustomed to seeing in the corners of the App Store, or on the advertising banners of websites you'd only look at in incognito mode. It takes a character so carefully crafted by the art team at Capcom and says, no, we can do that better, adding a layer of sheen that makes Grace stand out in Requiem's world, rather than feel a part of it. Not once on my playthrough of Resident Evil Requiem did I think that it didn't look photorealistic enough, or that either of its two protagonists was in need of a glow-up. And I've definitely never played a match of EA FC 26 where I wish that Virgil van Dijk looked even less like his real-life counterpart. I play games to experience a crafted piece of artistry. Whether the developers are aiming to take me to far-flung fantasy worlds or recreate real life with as much fidelity as possible. But DLSS 5 offers none of this to me, instead replacing the paintbrush held in a human hand with an AI slopping a big vat of oil all over the canvas. What are we doing here?
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
AI has no artistic or authorial intent. What it does is read an image as if it were purely zeros and ones, and overwrites it according to its training data, theoretically in an attempt to make it look better. On Nvidia's accompanying blog post, the company explains that the model is trained to end-to-end understand complex scene semantics such as characters, hair, fabric and translucent skin, along with environmental lighting conditions like frontlit, backlit or overcast, all by analysing a single frame. The idea, in theory, is to improve the look of characters while also keeping them grounded in the scene they already stand in. The results, though, are just off-putting to my eye. Each one of the Hogwarts Legacy characters in the trailer looks like they're now spotlit from behind the camera in an off-putting way that by no means looks natural. Yes, we now live in a world where game environments are largely dynamically lit, but the developers and technical artists behind those systems still have the ultimate control over how they look. They can decide the mood they're trying to set and will spend much of their time making sure it fits the game's vision. But Nvidia and the tech behind this AI filter obviously thinks it knows better. Art direction is such a huge part of video game design. The worlds and characters that these developers spend years handcrafting are what root us in the experience. I very recently started a replay of Uncharted 4, and it still strikes me in this nearly decade-old game how incredibly nuanced Nathan Drake's face is during its cutscenes. There are little wrinkles, bashes and bruises that come and go throughout its story that reflect his place in the world and the struggles he's going through. I couldn't imagine ever wanting an AI filter layered on top that would no doubt smooth over his wrinkles or make them weirdly even more wrinkly or remove his blemishes, recalibrating Naughty Dog's flawed hero to better reflect the perfect men that are promoted by society and thus flood its training data. But cuts, scuffs and genetic imperfections are the small details that make us connect to characters and are the intent of the artist who made them. The technology behind DLSS 5 threatens not only to make games physically distracting, but also completely alter the emotions of a story if it is embraced by the corporations that employ these artists. I can only imagine the collective sigh let out by the majority of video game developers when this trailer was released, but fear the people in charge of the money may have let out a little smile instead. Jensen Huang, Nvidia's CEO, claims that critics of this fresh tech are completely wrong, explaining that DLSS 5's tools are entirely controlled by the game developers themselves, meaning they can decide how much it impacts their artistic vision. But if it's there to just improve what has already been sculpted by hand, then why do the end results of this debut demonstration make the likes of Grace Ashcroft look like a totally different person? Of course, there's no such thing as something looking objectively better. We all have our own personal tastes when it comes to visual design, and some of you out there may well prefer this enhanced grace. But the fact that this tech appears to fundamentally alter the artist's original vision is the main problem I have with it. It doesn't merely look like a layer of extra lighting has been added to the scene to make her features pop, but instead looks like she's taken a quick trip to Renwood's closest cosmetic surgeon.
Dr. Gideon has been expecting you.
Her lips are fuller, her nose is sharper, and she seems to have twice as many hair follicles of different shades as she did before. This is doing so much more than just showing her in a different light, and while I understand that the technology is built on somewhat different building blocks from traditional generative AI, the end result nonetheless delivers a similar kind of airbrush look to what we've seen spat out of prior AI image generators. Once again, it feels like AI scraping the internet for traditionally attractive women and reshaping grace in that image, even if the method of approach isn't exactly the same. It just feels uncomfortable, and no matter how much Jensen and the team at Nvidia try to explain to us how unintrusive this tech is when adapting the artistic vision, it's the end results that ultimately speak for themselves. If I look at these new character models and instantly have a negative reaction that makes me think this is the next face-off of the AI slot production line, no amount of explaining that it's not actually changing the character's fundamental appearance is going to convince me otherwise. When the technology is purpose-built to impress us in the way that it is improving the way games look, and our gut reaction is to think that it made it look worse, hasn't it failed already? This feels like the dawn of a new era, and a saga that will stretch on far beyond Nvidia's announcement this week. Already we're seeing pushback from fans slamming DLSS as AI-generated slop, and Bethesda has quickly committed to further adjusting the lighting and final effect of Starfield's implementation of the tech, after it showed multiple characters suffering from the same smooth-faced fate in its space RPG. This will all be under our artist's control and totally optional for players, Bethesda Game Studios added on social media. It may well be completely optional for now on existing games, but I fear for what happens when studios start having to use this tech more in step with the development process. If we allow for this sort of technology to thrive, are we giving the go-ahead for companies to place less importance on curated art direction and instead do the bare minimum and let AI fill in the gaps? I don't know about you, but I like my art to be made by humans. I want to know if someone decided to light a scene in a certain way, or if the small details on a character's face were sculpted with intention. So I'll continue to say that visual upgrades like this look like shit. It's not like the tech behind it has any feelings to hurt anyway. For more on this technology, you can check out the announcement trailer from Nvidia, and for everything else, stick with IGN.